Today we're going to be talking about Vinson, and it's one of the 7 summits. My name is Stephanie, and I have the pleasure of working for Climbing the 7 Summits. I'm joined by our owner, Mike Hamill, today. Mike's in the room. There he is.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm also joined by one of our senior guides here at CTSS, Tomi Ceppi. Tomi, give us a wave. Hey.
Hello, everybody.
I love it. So our agenda for today, we're going to go over some fast facts on Vinson, get everyone oriented where it is, what's so wonderful about Antarctica and really sets us apart. We're also going to talk about where Vinson can fit into your 7 summits progression, if that's something you're going after. And then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, the logistics of it all, which are a lot. So we're going to talk about flying to Antarctica, actually climbing the mountain, and then we're going to think about how we're going to get you there. So time off, budgeting, gear, training. We'll close things out with some more expeditions and adventures that we offer down in Antarctica, followed by our philosophy here at CTSS, and then some final thoughts from Mike and Tomi. So that's going to be the agenda today. So with no further ado, I'm going to let Mike and Tomi introduce themselves. Let's go ahead and start with Mike. Mike, you have 19 summits since 2005 on Vinson, which is a lot of summits. Kind of seems like you've just been there a lot and you really know it like the back of your hand. So if you could tell us a little bit about how Vinson has changed in those last, 15 years or so, 20 years as you've been guiding there and climbing in Antarctica.
Yeah, I've been going down there for a long time and it has changed. We're kind of more cowboys back in the day. In 2005, 2006, my first couple expeditions down there, we didn't have the infrastructure that we do now. And a lot of the mountain it was just kind of this wild place. There might be a couple climbing rangers on the mountain, but we used a different route, kind of went up a route that we wouldn't really even think about going up now because it would be considered quite a bit more dangerous than the current route we use. And we may call in once or twice on the sat phone during the expedition, whereas now we're on the radios checking in with base camp all the time. So it was much more wild then. We actually used a different camp. We didn't use Union Glacier. We used a camp called Patriot Hills. And that created a lot of delays, actually. Union Glacier Camp has helped hugely for reducing the delays getting in and out of the continent. But yeah, it's changed a lot. It was kind of the Wild West back then, and to have the infrastructure that we have now is great. It's a much safer experience, which is awesome. Kind of see that progression over the years has been really cool. Done a lot of trips down there, spent a lot of times, several seasons. I've done 2-3 trips in a row. I love it down there. It's my favorite of the 7 summits. So I can't say enough good things about it.
Awesome. So folks, you're going to see some pictures of Union Glacier here in just a moment. I've been playing on repeat this video with Mike and Tomi really doing their guiding thing. This is Tomi right here working with a group, I think 2 years ago. But Tomi, I'm going to let you introduce yourself now here too. You pretty much as close as you can get to being a local in Antarctica. There's no residents, no permanent residents, no government down there, but you are from the southern tip down in South America. You were born and raised near Patagonia. You've got 12 summits, 14 expeditions. So what makes Vinson such a special place for you? And why do you keep returning year after year to Antarctica and to climb Vinson?
Well, hello, everybody. Hello, Stephanie. You told me that I am like a penguin, no? But look, I will take few things that Mike was talking about. For me, well, it's super, super special to be in Antarctica every single year. And it's about that, it's like a unique place. You fly down, you are a special place, special energy, and really few people can grab the opportunity to be guiding, working, and also climbing in Antarctica. So for me, it's super special, and it's the favorite 7 summit trip, really. And yes, of course, that I am from Argentina, from Patagonia. I'm more close than most of the people that are coming from the States, of course. But something that is special that Antarctica has is like everybody is the same down there. There are not borders, there are not governments. So that is special because everybody is working in the same way and feel like we are in the same place. And again, we don't have a citizen down there, It's all people that they are looking for the best experience ever in their life. So I think that everybody feel like a family, you know. So yeah, it's super special. And talking about me, I started working with Mike in Vinson for the last, I think, 4 seasons. I started working in Antarctica. My first experience season there was 2014, I think. From that time, I never stopped guiding down because I like it really. And it's super, super special to be here with all of you. Start working and planning our next trips down there with all the crew here.
Awesome. So folks, I pulled up the next slide so you can get a sense of actually how close Argentina is to Antarctica. Sometimes we don't often look at the bottom of the globe. So you can see in this little top image here, really truly how close that is to the peninsula that comes off of Antarctica there. So Mike, I'm going to let you jump in here. Vinson is an exceptionally remote mountain. Antarctica is an exceptionally remote continent as well. I believe there's a stat out there that says fewer people have summited Mount Vinson than Mount Everest. Vinson comes in at 16,000 feet. That's not terribly higher than the Rockies out in Colorado. Can you tell us a little bit more about Antarctica as a continent? What makes it so unique, so remote, besides just being on the bottom of the whole entire globe? But give us a little rundown of some of those interesting facts about Antarctica.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that it's a desert down there. I think, people see the snow and the ice and they assume it snows a lot. It's definitely not like Denali or Alaska or North America where we get a lot of snow. There are some places in Antarctica up on the plateau where I think it hasn't snowed in 10,000 years or more. It's obviously the coldest continent on the planet. It's the highest continent on the planet. Stephanie and I were tossing around a few facts this morning, preparing for the webinar, and what was it? The average ice thickness is like 5,000 feet, 2,000 meters or more, and it's thickest at something like 15,000 feet. So I think these are very basic things about Antarctica that a lot of people don't realize, but it's a super unique, special place. It's completely untouched. And, we'll probably talk more about this later, but in Antarctica, as part of the Antarctica Treaty, anyone that climbs down there, works down there, they have to really protect the environment. And we go so far as on our Vinson climb to pee into pee bottles and then deposit that in specific locations. And of course, all the human waste, trash and feces and everything else comes off the continent with us. And that's a lot different than the other 7 summits. I guess Denali's kind of going that way now, and Aconcagua is really cleaning up their act, and luckily Everest as well. But we really go to great lengths to protect the environment down there. It's so pristine. I think I've seen an animal once in Antarctica on Mount Vinson. There aren't any animals there. The penguins are by the coast. I saw a bird flying overhead, and if you see a bird, it's lost and it's going the wrong way. So it's just a very kind of austere environment down there. It's an incredibly beautiful place, and one that, I think Tomi and I both feel very lucky to be able to keep going back to.
Awesome. So quick question. It's a polar desert, so that makes it seem like it's super dry. You said there isn't a lot of snow happening. I've read your book. I've read a lot of things on Vinson, and it doesn't seem like it snows all that often. You don't even bring snowshoes down there.
Yeah.
Do you still get snowstorms? Should people still expect for some extreme, harsh snow-like weather while they're down there? Or does that just not really happen? Is it more blowing snow?
Yeah, we do every once in a while. I've had maybe 2 or 3 true snowstorms down there where we've got, 5, 6 inches of snow would be the max. Generally, the snow that we see down there is transported snow. So snow that's already on the surface. And then when the wind kicks up, it can be quite windy down there. That snow is transporting from one place to another. So it's not necessarily falling out of the sky. And like you say, we don't even use snowshoes down there. It's not like Denali where we'd be post-holing in. You arrive at Vinson and you're on snow. There's snow as far as the eye can see, but there's so little new snow accumulation that it's really compacted, so you can just walk in boots on the snow. and not worry about post-holing in there. So it just doesn't get the accumulation that places like Denali in Alaska get.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So something else, Tomi, that I want to tap your knowledge for is to talk a little bit about the two seasons that we see down on Vinson. There's summer and winter, but they're a little bit different than what we might experience in South America, where you are in Argentina, or up here in North America. Can you tell us about the two seasons and really what sets that apart and makes it a little different?
Yeah, of course. Well, as you say, no, that we have two different seasons in Antarctica. The season that we go down is summertime for us, for the north part of the continent. There is winter time. For us, the time to go and climb Vinson is summertime down here. What's happening here is like we have just two huge seasons, summer and winter. We don't have autumn, we don't have spring. So that means that on summertime, we have 24 hours of sunlight, no? We have light the whole day. So that is why we try to climb just in summertime and during that season. And then what happened in the rest of the 6 months of the year, we are 24 hours of darkness, So it's impossible to think and try to go to climb Vinson in the winter time down here. So something that is good about the season, first of all, that the thing that Mike was explaining, is super dry continent. That is mean that normally the weather, perhaps we have the windy days or whatever. So there we need to try to plan the climbing program. But normally we have sunny days. The continent is not hit super big storms about that. Perhaps we are 10 days of snow or whatever. So that make a little more easy to try to climb Vinson, no? More in summertime. But summertime doesn't mean that it's going to be warm. That is one we are going to talk about a little later. It's the coldest continent in the world. So that is why we need to be super carefully in these kind of things, no? But yes, it's crazy because many people that never experienced to be 24 hours of sunlight, at the beginning perhaps could be a little more uncomfortable to grab the sleep, inside the tents or whatever. And normally what happens also if the winds they are calm, during the day could be warm, but very quick once the sun goes behind the mountains could be really cold, in just few minutes. So it's special. Antarctica is special because perhaps in different places or other places in the world or mountains that the people is climbing around, you don't have these kind of conditions.
Very cool. So folks in the Northern Hemisphere, we oftentimes reference this summertime in the Southern Hemisphere as the Austral Summer. So if you hear that word, that's just a reference to that December, January, February time period, those months when it's summertime down in the Southern Hemisphere and it's winter up in the Northern Hemisphere. If you live in Australia or you live in Argentina like Tomi, you're used to that and that's the way your life is. But if you're on the Northern Hemisphere, a bunch of us on this webinar are, that's our winter time. So we often reference it as Austral Summer. So if you hear that word, now you have a little more intel. And then one question about being so close to the South Pole. Folks, on this map that where those longitude and latitude lines come together, that's 90 degrees south. That is the South Pole down there geographically. And that has a big implication on the air in the atmosphere. It is going to be thinner. It's going to be a little bit different. We are going to talk about that when we get into kind of the meat of the climb itself. But 16K isn't that high, but it's going to feel a lot higher because you're on the South Pole. Let's jump into, though, where does this fit into your Seven Summits progression? I know a couple of you said that you were going after that, and so we really want to think about where is this going to fit into your Seven Summits, or if you're not going after that, where does this fit into just your general climbing journey and how you're going about getting yourself ready to be there. Mike, what skills do folks need for Vinson? And also tell us a little about this idea of small Denali, because I know that you referenced that a couple of times when we were chatting just recently.
Yeah, I think, there are certainly very specific skills that you need to have at least seen and practiced before jumping on Mount Vinson. We kind of have them listed here. Sled hauling, fixed line climbing, like you see in the photo, there are fixed lines essentially from low camp to high camp. So you need to be fairly proficient in that skill. Rope travel, this is, sometimes the first opportunity for people to travel on a rope, but hopefully you get that experience before heading down there. And most importantly is cold management. It's not the tallest peak in the world, not the most physical peak, but it is the coldest peak. So you need to be very competent at taking care of yourself down there. Summit day on Vinson can be 40 below without wind. It could be 50, 60 below with wind. So number one, you need to have the right gear, but you need to be able to take care of yourself in those conditions. So I think it's super important to have some training courses before heading down there in terms of where it falls in the Seven Summits progression. Often people will climb Kilimanjaro, maybe in Elbrus if it's open and available, or a Mont Blanc before heading down to Vinson. I think I talk about Vinson as being a small Denali. It's very similar type of climbing to Denali, but it's a smaller peak. The days aren't as long, the trip isn't as long. So Vinson is actually great training for Denali. So I recommend going to Vinson before Denali if you can. You certainly don't need to. It's more expensive than Denali, so that might be kind of a limiting factor. Maybe you do Denali first, you get some of the other 7 summits under your belt, and then you kind of save it to the end. But I highly recommend going on some of these skills seminars like we offer on Mount Baker and the Australian Alpine Academy. They're going to teach you these skills. We'll talk about sled hauling. We'll run through fixed line climbing, rope travel, and you don't want this to be your first time seeing those skills. So if you get a chance to get out on some of those seminars, it's hugely advantageous to you.
So let's go ahead and jump into actually getting into the logistics. We are also going to give you a resource to contact us and talk about, hey, I've done this. Am I ready? Am I here? Have I done enough? So we can work with you one-on-one to help you decide if you're ready for a climb like Vinson, or we can get you suited up in a few more expeditions beforehand. So we'll give you those resources. But I do want to jump in now to the logistics and actually start talking about flying in Antarctica, because the flights themselves are quite a journey. So you're going to see just a little animation pop up. All of our expeditions with CTSS start in Punta Arenas, Chile, and then you're going to fly to Union Glacier Camp, which is kind of the main zone where everyone lands that's coming down there. And then you're going to have another flight, that's key right there, to Vinson Base Camp. And then while you're there, if you want to go to the South Pole, whether you want to ski it and ski the last degree, or you just want to go and visit, you would have another flight if you were adding on a visit to the South Pole because you're in Antarctica. Tomi, can you tell us a little bit about what it's like flying into Antarctica and landing at Union Glacier?
Yeah, okay. There we can see the video. Actually, we fly. That is one of the things that also changed in Antarctica, the thing that Mike was talking about before. Few years ago, we used to fly in a Ilyushin cargo aircraft that is a Soviet aircraft. And for the last 2 or 3 seasons, I think, the local operation changed the flight, and we are flying down in a 757. So it's really cool. It's luxury now, and it's more comfortable and warm fly to Antarctica. It used to be super cold. It was nice and fun to fly in the Soviet aircraft, but actually it's more comfortable, really. So the aircraft land in the blue ice runway, that is only ice. When you drop there and you make the first step on the ice, you never can imagine that aircraft can land there. And the views that you have during the flight down there is really cool. You can start from the beginning when you cross the Drake Pass, that is just sea and water. You start looking all the peninsula of Antarctica, and if you have the opportunity to be on the left side of the plane, you can see everything. And really, the first view of Antarctica is amazing. When we arrive there, you can see the flight there. Is for those that were in Denali, they are small aircraft. They are the Twin Otters that they are coming down from Canada. The local operation take this aircraft from Canada all the way down to Antarctica. I think that they spend like 2 weeks flying down from Canada until they arrive to Union Glacier. We fly in from Union Glacier to the base camp, the views that you can show there with the dome, by the Otters. And that flight is really amazing. It's awesome because you start having the first big views of Vinson. Um, and really, if we have an open day, normally they try to fly without fog because it's not so easy to land in the base camp. So they need perfect weather and really open views. So you can see everything. You can see Mount Chin, Vinson, all the big boys around Vinson, and really the best view that you can get of the mountain range down there. And again, really the operation of the flight, they are amazing, and it's special to be flying around Antarctica, the same that we were talking before. Not too many people have the opportunity to be climbing and be visiting Antarctica, so it's like the trip, you have everything in one trip. It's not only about the mountaineering stuff, also you are having the best picture ever of Antarctica, so it's great. It's really very nice to be there.
Incredible. Yeah. Just watching these videos, I could watch them over and over again. Folks, I put the note in there. Tomi said sit on the left side of the plane so you can see Antarctica first.
When you are flying down with the left, and something that I didn't mention it is about the time. The big flight in the 757 from Punta Arenas to Union Glacier is more or less 4 hours of flight. And then once we start flying from Union Glacier to the base camp, there are 40 minutes. That is a shorter flight.
Awesome. So Tomi was just saying the big flight is from Punta Arenas to Union Glacier, about 4 hours, but the plane is now a 747. Is that right? And it's a little more comfortable, which is great. And then you're going to be in that twin plane like Otter going from Union Glacier to Vinson Base Camp. And that's just a 40-minute short flight. And that plane is the one that has the skis on the bottom and is actually landing at Vinson Base Camp right there in the image to the side. So a lot of travel. Folks, stay at the ready. Once you do gear check-ins, you do all of that, you're kind of just holding tight until the logistics team in Antarctica gives you the thumbs up, and then you're out within the hour. Is that correct, Mike? It's like, let's go, we're rolling.
Yeah, if the weather's perfect, sometimes you can get out the same day. They try and fly from Punta Arenas in the morning, land in the afternoon, and if the weather's good, they might give you a lunch, turn you around in a couple hours and fly you out to Vinson Base Camp. But I think generally we plan on having a night there. There are a lot of other logistics going on, and sometimes the weather isn't perfect. So can be immediate, can be a day or two later. And that's one thing I want to mention too is, with the Union Glacier camp, we don't have the delays that we used to have using the old Patriot Hills camp, but it's still Antarctica. Delays are to be expected, and that's all kind of part of the program. We've got plenty of contingency days planned in there. So if you get stuck at Union Glacier camp for 2-3 days before being able to fly to Vinson Base, not a big deal. We've got plenty of time to climb the mountain still. Same thing, getting from Vinson Base back to Union Glacier, it could be a couple days sitting there, or you might be delayed getting out of Antarctica, flying into Antarctica. Delays are to be expected, but there's enough contingency there that it's generally not an issue.
Yeah. And just like with all mountaineering, that flexibility, the understanding, remaining open to the idea that contingency days are going to happen, being just comfortable with that flexibility, with the uncertainty of like, oh, we might fly now, we might fly tomorrow or in 2 days. That can just be really good to embrace and feel. So it's a little less stressful.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we're going to jump into the meat of the actual climb. We're going to give a quick overview of the route. The Branscombe Shoulder is the route name. You see in the center of the screen right here, the actual Branscombe Glacier. So shoulder meaning quite literally the shoulder of the glacier. Don't worry, these guys are going to tell you all about the actual route. We're going to break it down kind of into the lower mountain, going from base camp to low camp to high camp, and then the upper mountain getting up to the summit and coming back down as well. So we're going to break it all down for you, but this nice little visual helps really get the idea of you're going around the glacier on the shoulder of it to reach the summit there. Let's go ahead and jump in, climbing Vinson. Mike, can you give us a little play-by-play, a little what to expect getting from base camp to low camp? Let's go ahead and start with that one, and then we'll jump into low camp to high camp. Folks, I have some stats on the screen here, but Mike's going to run with it and tell you a little bit more from his perspective because he's been on the mountain.
Yeah, getting base camp to low camp, it's a pretty casual day. It's mostly flat or very gradual terrain, kind of like, the first the first day on Denali, if anyone's been up there. I know some of you have. It's pretty casual terrain. That's a picture of it right there. You see we're walking in boots rather than snowshoes. It's typically 4 to 6 hours. Sometimes we double carry that, and that just means, we'll leave base camp, go up, cache a load either at low camp or partway there, come back down, spend the night, and then move back up. But over the past few years, Tomi and I have been working hard to kind of pre-stock that low camp for you and pre-stock high camp as well. So we have enough gear. We've got tents, we've got stoves, we've got fuel, all that stuff at low camp. So we've been able to move pretty light and single carry from base camp to low camp. It's easier on people. It saves a few days. So that's generally how we play it now. But yeah, pretty easy terrain. It's beautiful, can be pretty warm going up the glacier. You see one of our guides, Robert, in just kind of a base layer and a soft shell. That's about the warmest you're going to see on Vinson. But yeah, pretty casual terrain getting to low camp.
Tomi, quick question for you. How much weight do you think climbers are usually carrying between their packs and their sleds in this lower part of the mountain?
For the last year is really after the work that we were making with Mike and Robert and the rest of the crew for the last years, we have a lot of equipment, tents, and also food down there in low camp. So normally, actually, the members, they are moving between the sled and the backpack, let's say 50 pounds, that is something like this, between 20, 30 kilograms in total between the personal equipment and gear, and also the equipment that they need to move, like food, tent, or whatever, but no more than that. And the same that Mike was explaining, the first part until low camp is easy because we can split all the gear and the weight between the sled and the backpack. So it's a very nice and gentle day to low camp.
Very cool. Awesome. So if I'm reading this correctly, also, after you hit low camp, you get to low camp, and then you need to move to high camp. But you're ditching sleds at low camp. You're caching them. Maybe not ditching them is the wrong word, but caching them for your return trip. And then you're just moving to packs for that kind of as you go up the mountain. So Mike, tell us a little bit about what to expect. You got packs on, no more sleds, and you're having a pretty long day, 6 to 8 hours, moving up to high camp. So tell us a little bit about what to expect and what you experienced then.
Yeah, it starts to get a bit more serious going from low camp to high camp. Very safe travel. It's all fixed lines. The kind of park rangers, the team down there working for the logistics company, they'll put in the fixed lines at the start of every year. So it's about a 15-minute hike over to the base of the fixed lines. Again, we cache the sleds. So we're just carrying the packs. Try and go as light as possible up to high camp, 15 minutes over to the base of the fixed lines, and then it's a good 3 hours typically up the fixed lines. It's similar to the fixed lines on Denali, just longer amount of time on those lines. It's maybe 40 degrees, nothing too crazy. The slope's been skied to give you an idea. It's kind of like a double black diamond ski slope, so not super steep or extreme, not as steep as the Lhotse face, but you're carrying a heavy pack. So it's a pretty arduous day. Typically, we do a double carry from low camp to high camp. So we'll carry up the supplies that we don't need at low camp, cache those at the top of the fixed lines, come back down, spend another night, maybe even take a rest day at low camp before moving up to high camp. And then we'll break down our entire camp, move up. It's kind of a heavier day when you actually move up to high camp, move on up, pick up that cache at the top of the fixed lines. And then from there, it's another, I wouldn't say casual because you have heavy packs, but it's more moderate terrain from the top of the fixed lines into camp, about an hour and a half. So it's a big day. It takes it out of you, but doing that double carry allows us to acclimatize to the altitude as well. But yeah, you start getting into a bit more serious terrain from low camp to high camp.
So let's actually take a look at some of that terrain. It's going to take you just little snippets from base camp to low camp up through high camp. So you'll see the switch from sleds to no sleds, and then that fixed rope that folks are ascending. So Mike, if you don't mind, just can you tell us some of the things that we're seeing here?
Vinson's kind of back behind. This is the 15 minutes up to the base of the fixed line. Now we're getting on the fixed lines here. You can see reasonable terrain. We travel on our rope, on our team's rope, as well as on the fixed line, so it's doubly safe. There's one lunch ledge, a place to take a break about halfway up, which is really nice. It's usually pretty warm and sunny on the fixed line, so we dress down when we're moving up the fixed lines, but we just keep a nice, slow, steady pace. Yeah, it's really safe. I think people are sometimes intimidated by it, but you shouldn't be. Again, we're on our rope team and we're on the fixed line, so it's very safe climbing. And this gives you an idea of kind of pack size moving up to high camp.
Awesome. Yeah, the visual here really does help just to see that 45-degree angle, folks moving up. I think I read in your book, you mentioned that the underfoot, under your crampons, it's really solid. It feels secure. Is that correct? It just looks like your footing is, you're not sinking in at all, really firm footing.
Yeah. Yeah, again, Antarctica just doesn't get that much snow. So if you're looking for powder skiing, you're going to be disappointed. It's really solid underfoot. Usually we're not on blue ice. It's just on compacted snow, but it's really good footing the whole way. So it saves a lot of energy. You're not post-holing or, spinning your wheels in loose powder or anything like that. So.
Pascal, just so you know, the weight of the pack there in kilograms, about 22 kilograms. Tomi, check me, 50 pounds, 23 kilograms.
Yeah, 20, 25, no more than that.
So around 50 pounds, 23, 25 kilograms. Yeah, of course. So actually, Tomi, can you give us a little overview of what it's like moving from high camp to the summit on that summit day? This is you, correct, in this photo?
Yeah, that is me with Anna and Robert, I think, at the back. Yeah, on the summit.
The client and then one of our other guides. So tell us what this is like getting up there.
Yeah, well, that picture was last season, was perfect day, as you can see there. Summit day could be really long. It depends the weather and the condition of the team, how we are moving, the pace. But at the beginning of the summit day, it's a gentle slope. We go through the valley until the bottom of the Vinson face. From there, we start going around to the left until the shoulder. There we arrive to the summit ridge. Really, it's a clear and safe climbing. Of course, that from the beginning of the trip, we are traveling and climbing on the ice, on the glacier terrain that we have traverses. But the traverses, normally they are really close. It's not a dangerous terrain, no? So it's a long summit day because the distance. And perhaps the most difficult part of the summit day is about the weather. If we have a good weather, like in the picture that we can see, really it's nice because it's not going to be cold. But for those that they are thinking that perhaps they're going to be cold, they start dressing a lot of gear or whatever, they start feeling warm very, very easy, from the beginning. So that is a key, that is something that is important to have and arrive to Antarctica, same that Mike was telling everybody here, to have that experience, to be proactive, autonomy in the way that to know how to dress, how to take care of your own, because normally also can happen that we are feeling warm, but just in 1 minute it's super cold because the wind arrived. So we need to take care in this kind of things. The round trip, going from high camp to summit and coming down to high camp, let's say that perhaps could be 12 hours. The last year we did it in less time. We were moving a little more fast, but it's 12-hour travel going up and down. And perhaps the most technical part of the whole trip is the last part until the summit, on the summit ridge. That is a rocky area between also rock, ice, because normally is cold. So there we need to take a little more of care about how we are. There are few pitons on the rock that in case that we need to put or give a little more of support and belay, we are going to put the rope on the pitons. So we have good anchors there, but really nothing happened. We are taking care all the time. We are traveling all the time on the rope team, so we are checking everything there. Perhaps again, the most important thing to have in mind is about the temperature and the weather. But the views that you have on the top, you can see a little bit there in the picture. They are amazing. You have the best 360 ever in Antarctica.
Incredible. Yeah, that photo is amazing. Your weather looks amazing. I noted in our photos of Vinson on our drive, we didn't have any of snowy, like whiteout conditions or really cold conditions, probably for a reason. People take more pictures when it's a little bit nicer out. So we hope for this weather for all of you.
It depends the weather, no? It's like that time I think that we spent like 30, 40 minutes on the top because we did it and we have perfect weather. And also can happen that we arrive there, the weather is not so good and it's super cold, and we just take a picture and we start going down, no? And something else to mention there that is there in the notes is the weight that we are going to be carrying on the backpack. It's not going to be a heavy backpack on summit day. It's going to be just a day pack with 2.5 liters of water. Normally we recommend to grab hot water so we don't have problem with the temperature there. An extra gear in case that you are not using everything from the beginning, to have your extra mittens or whatever inside the backpack. So it's normally a really light backpack for summit day.
That's really nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Mike, I want to tap into your knowledge a little bit because now that we're on kind of the summit slide here, we're going to show a video from the summit in just a moment, but I want to talk about the altitude and how that feels and how Guy just said, what's the perceived altitude? And then what does this feel like? Because we all see 16K, but we know it's going to feel different. So jump in, tell us a little about how the altitude is going to feel. Is there a comparison that you could even make with it?
Yeah, basically, the atmosphere is thinner at the poles, so it feels higher. There's less atmospheric pressure pushing down on you, forcing the oxygen into your lungs. So it feels higher. Maybe Tomi would disagree a little bit, but I think, the summit of Vinson might feel like 18.5, 19,000 feet as opposed to the true altitude of the summit. And that's coming from 20 years of climbing all the 7 summits. A peak like Mount Everest, I think, is 32 degrees north. So that's going to feel much more true to the actual altitude. But you definitely feel it on Vinson. It feels higher than its actual height. So.
Okay, that's really helpful to put a number with it. So you said that was around 18 or 19,000 feet is what it might feel like.
Yeah, I'd say the summit of Vinson feels maybe 2,500 feet higher than it actually is. Denali might feel kind of 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet higher than its summit. That's at 62 degrees north. Vinson is, I think, 78 or 79 south. So it just kind of gives you idea of where they are relative to each other, away from the equator.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, let's talk a little bit about the summit, Mike, because in this video here, there's obviously quite the celebration happening.
Yeah.
But there's Tomi, big smiles, big hugs. But what are you thinking as a guide, someone that's been coming here for 20 years? What are you thinking on the summit?
You see me right there. I was actually on this trip, which was pretty cool. It's a great team, great all around climb. You see Kirstie Ennis in some of those shots. This video is all courtesy of her. She lost her leg in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan, and she was able to summit with us on that trip. Really, Tomi was kind of her personal guide on that. So just an awesome feeling being on top. We had pretty good weather on this one, so it's not too bad. But like Tomi says, if it's a windy day or a particularly cold day, you might get out there, take your glove off for a second, take a photo, and then stick your hand back in the glove so you don't get frostbite, and then you're out of there. It's, maybe 50% of the time we can hang out up there a little bit, spend a half an hour and really soak it in. But I think the big difference between Vinson and some of these other climbs, like say Mount Baker, on Mount Baker, you're close to civilization. You could call in a rescue. In Antarctica, you're out there on your own. As far as you can see on the horizon, there is nothing. The closest people to you would be at Union Glacier Camp, an hour's flight away. So you realize how remote and how committed you are when you're on the summit. You just need to keep that in mind. So you still have work to do to get back down safely to high camp and then all the way back down to base camp. It's a very different experience than, say, climbing Mount Rainier or Mount Baker or Mont Blanc, a place where there are a lot of people around and rescue facilities. So it's kind of a committing feeling in a really cool way.
Mike, I noticed it in this video here. Of course, everyone's celebrating up top. I can see you specifically and Tomi. You guys are celebrating and certainly sharing in this. But then it switches back to you guys looks like you're at high camp or even base camp here. And your demeanor right there has changed. You're like, we're off the summit. Even his demeanor right there was like, we've actually done it now. The summit is just kind of halfway there. You got to come all the way back down, especially in an incredibly remote place. Really important to get back down safely as well.
Absolutely. I've had the weather change on me after tagging the summit, getting back to high camp. So you're not there yet. You still have some work to do to get back to high camp to make sure you're safe.
So folks, we're going to switch gears away from the climb a little bit. So I want to jump into one of the biggest questions that we field kind of on the back end at Climb the Seven Summits, which is about time off and budgeting. I went ahead and just put our dates on this because Mike's going to tell you about why the kind of the strategy behind these dates. But you'll see that we have 3 team departures this coming season. All of these departures are led by Tomi, yours truly here in the room. So team 1 heading out over the Christmas holiday into kind of the beginning of New Year's. Team 2 heading out just after the Christmas holiday, and team 3 heading out free and clear of Christmas and New Year's. Some of these dovetail with other adventures and expeditions we offer that we'll show you in just a moment. But Mike, give us a little intel into why we set the dates up and how this is being really mindful of people's time off, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, we try and make it as user-friendly as we can for folks. The biggest consideration is like, do you need to be home for the holidays? Can you be away for the holidays? Do you need to use that holiday time because maybe you don't get much time off from work? You notice all these trips are in succession and they're kind of at the height of that Austral Summer. Sometimes we'll do a Vinson one, which is earlier in the season or a later trip, but this is when it's warmest on Vinson and safest. It's the best travel, best time to be there. We want to be there when it's the warmest. So that's why we choose these 3 specific dates. But you can see the first trip that includes Christmas. So if you need to use that holiday time, you would want to jump on that first trip. If you need to be home for Christmas but can be away for New Year's, then you could jump on that second trip. And if you need to be home for Christmas and New Year's and you have some time after the first of the year, then we've got a trip January 7th. So kind of how your personal life dictates when you can be away. We've got options for everyone there.
Awesome. Perfect. And then Mike, when we look at the price tag of Vinson, and you were telling me a little bit about the price and why it is the way it is, a lot of what we're looking at are just truly fixed costs. So I want you to also talk a little bit about those fixed costs and why we see that price tag.
Yeah, basically anytime you're operating in Antarctica, as you can imagine, it's a huge logistical effort. And although we don't need to charter our own plane like Dick Bass did, 30 years ago. We've got the logistics more dialed in. Still, the flight service will charter a Boeing 757 for the season to fly you down to the ice. And they still use that Aleutian. They charter that for the whole season to fly gear and fuel into the ice. And then, as Tomi mentioned, the Twin Otters and the Basler, they're flying down from Canada, from Calgary, Canada, spend 2 weeks flying down, and they're down there for the whole season. They need to make special fuel flights to bring fuel into the continent. So everything that's done down there is a huge logistical effort, and it's very expensive. So there are really fixed costs. It's, huge overhead. I tell people a lot of times that the majority of the cost that you see from us is a direct pass through to the logistics company that handles the flights and the fixed lines on Vinson and all that. So, you won't see a lot of variance in price between the different outfitters because the overwhelming majority of that cost is a direct pass through to the logistics company. But it's just logistically so difficult and so expensive. That's why the trip is the price that it is. You know, a 2-week trip, you do a two-week trip in the Alaska range or in Europe, and it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper. Anytime you're operating in Antarctica, add some zeros because it gets expensive.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that and just helping to kind of demystify the price and why it is the way it is. It makes sense. It's Antarctica. It's super far away, but it's good for folks to really know that a lot of those costs are just passed straight through and going back to the logistics teams as well. So one of the other most important questions we field on the backside, the logistics side at CTSS is training for Vinson. So Tomi, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about training. We have some tidbits here of what folks can be doing to get ready. But Tomi, what can folks do? What do you suggest when people are getting ready to climb Vinson?
Well, there you have different kind of, well, a lot of examples what you need to train or whatever. I think the most important in this kind of expedition, because we are in a very remote area, you know, it's all about, in my opinion, no, it's more, the most important thing is all the technical skills that you can grab before to go down to Vinson. Of course, that the physical or the people that they need to be fit, they need to train in the everything about the weight of the packs or whatever. But I think that the most important is to arrive to Antarctica in the best technical situation, because it's really for us what we are going to ask to the people there, to the members, is to be proactive, no, and to take care and to be proactive in the out becoming. And if you are taking care of yourself in the small details that we were talking about, how to dress yourself, to take care of the cold, dress your gloves, not to get cold, frostbite or whatever, you are taking care of the team. So go to the gym, it's amazing, cross training, run, bike or swim, everything is important. But for me, if the people ask me, try to go to the mountain, try to go for a trekking, all the things that you can do similar, the thing that you are going to do in Antarctica is going to be more helpful for everybody, no? Go for a trekking, grab a heavy pack, go for a hike day and grab the heavy pack again, go for a bike, but more experience and more technical skills you grab before to fly down, it's going to be more easy. The people are going to feel better grabbing that experience before to be in Vinson. Then all the things that perhaps the people can be thinking about, the sled or the fixed line. Of course, it's important perhaps you can make a training in the States, in the academy in Australia or wherever, and you can grab that experience before. And also it's important to mention that when we are on the ice, we are going to train a lot all these kind of skills, no? Before to start climbing the mountain at the base camp, or if we are delayed Union Glacier, we are going to start talking and training about how to set up the sled system, how to set up the fixed line system, all these kind of things. So when we go to the technical part, it's going to be easy, you know? So yeah, I think that the climbing starts at home, and the most fun part of the trip normally they are the beginning. For me, the beginning is the training, to go to the gym, to go for a run, to go for backcountry here now in Argentina at this time. So all the things that we can do before, when you arrive to the ice, is going to make the difference, I'm sure.
Awesome. Tomi really stressed that your technical skills are not only going to help you on the mountain, but also help the entire team. Coming ready with those skills as much as you can will help everyone. And then the other little tidbit that I really got out of that is everything starts at home. Your climb starts at home. Just that notion that what you do at home matters. Metrics, benchmarks, we have on there aiming for that 50 pounds is so important on your back, on your pack. But Mike yesterday was just reiterating that it's long, it's slow. It's not about running a mile in 7 minutes. It's about being able to hike for 6 hours with a 50-pound pack on. Or it's about being able to maybe pull a tire, but less of like, hey, we got to be this fast or this explosive, but can we go long and slow with a lot of freaking weight on your back or pulling it? So Mike, tell us more about sled training and what you recommend here.
Again, I don't know if you saw right there was Kirstie Ennis hauling a sled with one leg. She's a pretty incredible lady, standing on top, doing as much work, if not more, than everyone else. But, you know, sled haul, just like Denali, is part of the experience. You want to be ready for that. The most important thing is being very physically fit. You know, if you live in a place where you can't necessarily train for the sled haul, it's not that big of a deal. But if you can, it'll certainly help you to be prepared. So to train for sled haul, typically what we do is people will drag a tire behind them, either on, say, a dirt road, or if you live in Australia or California and you're near a beach, you can drag a tire on the beach. That's really the best thing you can do. Stephanie and I talked a little bit yesterday about like pulling that sled thing in the gym. That could be good, but it's short distances. You need to be able to haul a sled low camp to high camp, or base camp to low camp, you know, might be 6 hours. So just spending 30 minutes in the gym is not really going to get you there. So if you can find a tire, rig up a harness, pull that for hours on a dirt road or on a beach, that's the best thing you can do. And the friction of a tire on a beach or a dirt road is going to be a lot more than a plastic sled on snow. So it doesn't need to be a heavy tire. Just a normal car tire would be fine. Not a lot of weight, but go for distance and time. Duration is the most important thing.
Awesome. Yeah. I paused it there because I think that's you, Tomi, and you're doing a little dance right in the video. So I just love that you guys are having fun while you're out there. So Mike, I think that's really important. The friction, it matters when you're practicing this, when you're pulling your tire. Remember, you will have more friction wherever you're pulling it, but it's not this explosive gym sled pull. If you can get on a dirt road, on a beach, on a sand dune somewhere, wherever you might find that, and just a regular car tire, just try to pull that hours if you can. So a little less explosive, a little more long and slow. Alrighty, I want to talk about gear. We put on the slide here a couple of key pieces of gear. If you notice, we didn't put the hiking poles, the helmet, the crampons, because those are things you're going to need for many different expeditions if you're really on this mountaineering journey or on the 7 Summits journey. Mike, tell us a little bit about this gear and why we're showcasing some of these special pieces here.
Yeah, these are very Vinson specific. A lot of times people will ask me, can they get away with, I think it's called the Mountain Hardwear compressor pant, which is kind of a thinner synthetic insulated pant. And, you know, I brought those down there once and it was a pretty cold summit day and I could feel the wind through my pants and I did not feel well prepared. So you need something bigger, like we've got the Feather Friends Volant pants on here. It's a true down pant. You need something big and puffy. Don't ever underestimate how cold it is down there. So good thick pair of down pants is super important. I think we've got the -40 overstuffed Feathered Friends sleeping bag on there. That's incredibly important as well. Either that bag or I think it's the Coom by Marmot is a good way to go. -40 bag, either of those. You're going to be nice and toasty warm. I've found that the North Face 40 below is a little bit lighter, but it's not quite as warm. And I've been a bit chilly bringing that bag on the expedition, just to toss that out there. A very light sled duffel is important. Here we've got the Hyperlight on there. That's probably quite a bit more expensive than, say, the $20 REI nylon duffel bag, but you want something very light. So if you want to go cheaper, you can go the REI. If you want to invest a bit of money in it, then you've got this Dyneema or whatever it is, Hyperlight, which is a great option to go with as well. Balaclava, do not skimp here. I actually bring a couple balaclavas because on summit day, it is so cold that you need to have something covering your face if the wind is blowing. And often after an hour with the moisture that you're breathing, it'll turn to actually like an ice sheet on your face. So I'll take one balaclava off, stick it in my jacket, warm it up, thaw it out, dry it out, and put on my other balaclava while I'm warming up the other one. So don't go too light there. You don't want to try and double up buffs and think you're going to be okay there. Definitely go with a big balaclava like this OR Gorilla Mask that you see here. It's very important. You want to be able to cover your entire face between the goggles and the balaclava. Hand layers are incredibly important. We've got the Black Diamond guide gloves on here. That's pretty much the warmest glove you can find. You want to bring those. And then the down mitts beyond that. You want the down mitts to be able to fit over those guide gloves if you can. And then they're kind of a backup. If you were to drop one of your gloves at the summit of Vinson, then you can put on that down mitt and you're not going to lose your hand. If you drop a glove up there, it could be so cold that you could get frostbite very, very quickly if you don't have a backup. So the down mitts are both a backup and to go over the really warm gloves in case you have poor circulation or get cold easy. And then the other thing we've got on there is just some hand cream. It's so dry in Antarctica that I find that my hands really crack if I'm not applying a hand cream every day. So that's something to consider. The Climb On bar that's made for rock climbers is a really good one that I use. I think this is a super salve. That's a great option as well. So bringing down something like that, a moisturizer, a hand salve is really important to keep your hands from cracking.
Awesome. So that's the gear checklist. We also have a gear guide that helps direct you towards this product or gives some examples. It makes a little peace of mind when you're buying things. So those are in there. And then somebody asked about the volume for the climbing pack. We have 85 to 100 liters listed as the suggested volume. Mike, Tommy, would you give a thumbs up to that?
The backpack, yeah, it's important to have a big one because the day that we start moving to high camp, we need to put everything inside the backpack. So for those that normally think about a small one, it's not going to be enough.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for that. Like I said, folks, we really try to make it easy for the gear. We try to give you all the info ahead of time so you can go ahead and get that. Do you know, Tommy, is there anywhere to rent gear down there in Chile before you take off? Or should folks really be there's nowhere once you're in Antarctica to get anything. So that's really important to note, to have everything dialed in. But is there anywhere down in Chile where you can rent gear, or if you're flying in through various countries and cities?
We don't have too many opportunities to rent down there. There are few, but really it's better to arrive to Punta Arenas with the whole equipment, with our own equipment, so you are sure that you have everything with you. And in case that we need to, I don't know, something happened with the flight, somebody lost the duffels or whatever, we have few options. We can also work with the local operator that have few things there. But thinking about the big mountaineering boots, all this kind of stuff, is tough to get it there. So it's important to take everything down with your own.
Yeah, really important, folks. Really have that dialed in, bring it all with you, make sure it gets there. Super important. One more question, thinking about gear. Mike, does anyone ever wear or bring a one-piece down suit, something they might be using on Everest, or is that too much, too little? Not sure.
That's a great question, actually. That used to be the norm down there on Vinson. People would bring their one-piece suit. We don't recommend that anymore because it's just pretty limiting. You can pull into a rest break or pull into camp at the end of a long day and toss on your down parka to stay nice and warm, and you don't necessarily need to put on a full one-piece climbing suit. And there are some places, like I mentioned earlier, you could leave low camp and it can be quite cold. You get the wind coming down the valley, but then once you jump on the fixed lines, it can be incredibly hot. You might be in a base layer and overheating. So if you are committed to that down suit, you can't really take that thing off. And then you hit the top of the fixed lines, the wind picks up again. If you've taken your down suit off, then you got to put it back on again. So it's just not as useful to have the one piece. We find it much more useful to have the top and bottom. You can adjust a lot more. So no one really uses the one piece down suit for Vinson anymore.
Okay, that's super helpful. One other question on thinking about parkas, coats, outerwear. We were talking about pants specifically. How heavy of a down parka do you recommend? We have one listed in our gear guide that I can share, but what do you recommend for heavy down parkas?
Obviously something very warm like the Mountain Hardwear Absolute Zero or the Feathered Friends Volant or one of those. I think there are a couple around that same range. My first trip down there, I brought a Feathered Friends Rock and Ice Parka, which I think is the warmest one they make. I felt like it was overkill. It was too warm. It was so bulky, I couldn't do anything in it. So the common practice nowadays is to layer a bit more. You might wear 4 or 5 layers underneath, a couple mid-weights, a couple base pile layers, and then kind of a medium weight 7,000 meter, 8,000 meter parka. But I'd steer clear of something like the Feathered Friends Rock and Ice parka, just because it's just too bulky. You can't do much with it. So
Yeah, so you can get too extreme with your parka. So looking at that gear guide, Mike suggested some of the other Feather Friends ones, the Volant, and we list the Kumbu. And then there's also the Mountain Hardware Absolute Zero, and Blake just chimed in saying that it looks like maybe he's used that or has it and really likes it as well. So, and that's the team at CTSS, whoever your program manager is, ask those questions to them. Is this too heavy? Is this good? Did I get the right one? Am I ordering the right one? We're happy to help direct you and give you that one-to-one support absolutely anytime. So don't hesitate to ask if you have questions about that gear, because it's one shot down there, as in you're flying down, you're not renting anything down there, you're not buying anything down there, so you want to have that right gear. Here is of course, our Instagram, Facebook, website, and email. Screenshot this if you'd like to. We do offer consult calls, free consult calls for people that are interested in joining any of our expeditions. It doesn't have to be just Vinson. And you are welcome to set up a time with Caroline and Mike. Caroline's the co-owner with Mike, to talk about your goals. We really like helping people through their progression. So I encourage folks to take advantage of this. Here is the link to set up a call if you would like to. But I do want to go back now and talk a little bit about what other things we offer in Antarctica, because you're already down there, you've made it pretty far, and might as well take advantage of some of the other things. So Mike, I'm actually going to turn this over to you again to tell us a little bit about the South Pole last degree ski, especially for those eyeing the Explorers Grand Slam. And then there is another incredible mountain summit down there that we do go towards. So I'll turn it over to you.
I think probably the most common trip that people tack on with the Vinson climb is the last degree ski. An absolutely incredible experience. You see a photo here. You know, it's not that varied. You can kind of see what you're going to be seeing for the 8 days skiing to the South Pole. It's just kind of traveling on snow, but it's a really cool experience. And being able to visit the South Pole and kind of be part of that history there is pretty powerful. So I recommend if you can do that, tack that on. That's a great way to go. And of course, that's part of the Explorers Grand Slam. So the way the logistics work is basically you fly into Union Glacier, and then typically our climbers doing the last degree ski, and then Vinson will do the ski first. So they'll fly down to 89 degrees south. They'll ski for about 8 days to the South Pole, get picked up there, again, fly back to Union Glacier, where they meet the rest of our climbing team. And then we fly over to Mount Vinson and climb together as a team. But it's a lot cheaper if you do both together, the South Pole ski and Vinson, rather than going down and climbing Vinson, going home, and then coming down the next year and doing the last degree ski. So of course it's very expensive, but it's a way to save some money there, and a really cool program. If you can do that one, I highly recommend it. I love that. And then of course, Mount Sidley, a lot of people are doing the volcanic 7 summits nowadays. That's the tallest volcano in Antarctica. It's a bit of a longer flight away, really cool experience, mellow climbing, but very cold. It's just kind of a long, gradual climb. So if you're on the volcanic 7 summits track, that's one you may want to consider as well. And we can dovetail that in with Vinson.
Perfect. And folks, on our website, we have all those kind of trips that dovetail and match up together. Sometimes it's beforehand, sometimes it's afterwards. We have that all spelled out and kind of laid out for you, so you can say, I definitely want to do Mount Sidley, so I know I need to go with this team. And that is really helpful. So we try to make it easy for you. But folks, if you're not looking to do maybe as like another expedition, Mike said the last degree ski is 8 days of skiing. Perhaps you're just looking to relax a little bit more, enjoy yourself. We have a couple of options here. I'm going to go through these really quickly. our Antarctic adventures here. You can take a flight to the South Pole. You don't have to ski for 8 days across Antarctica to reach it. You can, but you can fly there. You can just visit for the day, walk around the South Pole, walk around the world, essentially. You can also choose to add on an overnight there as well, which is a great option, really special. We also have a 3 glacier retreat that's luxury glamping on Antarctica. It's similar to our residence tents that if you've been on Everest or seen some of our pictures from Everest, they are nice. In fact, some folks that are on our team actually have helped set up that camp there, and we could tell you all about it for days. If Danny has worked with you, she has a wealth of information about all of these different places. You can do daily excursions from there, snowmobiling, hiking, climbing, whatever you feel like. The world is your oyster if you're down there at the 3 Glacier Retreat. Then last but not least, the Gold Bay penguins are fairly famous, and stopping by to get to know the emperor penguins, seeing the petrels fly by, the seals swim by, and just being surrounded by ice cliffs, icebergs, everything icy is really incredible. So that's another thing that we can help organize for you, is a chance to kind of camp and be among the emperor penguin at Gold Bay. That's really quite special. I don't know, Tommy, have you been to any of these places? Have you been to the South Pole before? Have you visited there?
No, never, really. Also, the thing that you were talking about, the penguins, they say that also they are amazing. So
Yeah.
that is one of the things that I would like to do one time in my life. I always been in, how to say, in Vinson for many times, but always in Antarctica was in Vinson. It's a good opportunity to visit a different place there.
Folks, like Mike said, if you're already down there and you're feeling like, oh, I want to do the Explorers Grand Slam or the Volcanic Seven Summits, Mount Sidley, or just a chance to see the South Pole, coming to Antarctica twice is a lot. It's expensive. So tacking on something like this is a great way to take advantage of being there, or your acclimatization if you're climbing again and doing something like that. So folks, we are just about to wrap up here. Here's that consult call one more time. But I want to give one more chance just for Mike to speak about not only the philosophy that we at CTSS have for Vinson, but this also speaks to our philosophy overarchingly. As a company, we really lean in on the marginal gains philosophy. Little things make a big difference and make us happier, better, stronger, just really great climbers. That is one thing you will see in every expedition we do. Mike, let's talk about our marginal gains philosophy, but also how you apply that with Vinson, looking at such a remote place. And then we'll go to final thoughts for Tommy and Mike.
Yeah, I think our Vinson program is one of the places where we've been investing a lot over the past few years. As I mentioned, we've been stocking those camps for our teams. That's a big expense for us to, stage tents down there at the different camps. But I think it's a way to add value to our climbers and make it easier for people. So we've been investing a ton, similar to our Everest program. I know some of our Everest climbers are here and they've kind of experienced that. We essentially spare no expense on Vinson. We want people to have a great experience, and we throw a lot of money and infrastructure at that. I mentioned pre-stocking the camps. That allows people to travel lighter, and it just makes it a better experience if you don't have the drudgery of moving up, doing the double carries all the time and carrying 100 pounds. If you're carrying 50 pounds instead, it just makes it a better experience. But also, there were a couple times you saw our base camp set up. We've got this beautiful mountain hardware dome, insulated with flooring and chairs and tables in there. That allows our people at base camp to get in, get warm, enjoy some good food there. Most people are still climbing Vinson kind of Denali style, so they'll bring like a little pop tent for base camp, and you're sitting in the snow and the wind's kind of blowing in your face, and you're eating freeze dried, and that's not our philosophy. We bring down really good food, salmon steaks, chicken. Often Tommy will do an asado at the end of the expedition. When we get back down from the summit, he'll cook up some steaks if you're a meat eater. We cater a lot for, vegetarians, people with any dietary restrictions. That's not a problem for us, but we want people to eat well and eat good food, and we invest in that. I think the biggest thing there, I know you've got it on your list here, is the expert leadership and guides. Having someone like Tomi, or, I lead this trip a lot, that has experience from all around the world. I mean, Tomi's got 4 or 5 Everest expeditions under his belt. I've done 30 plus 8,000 meter expeditions. We guide all around the world. We have other very experienced guides that we send down to Vinson, and you can tap into that knowledge. You can ask them questions about those other programs, but we're not going to be sending down a first-time guide to lead your expedition that doesn't know the route, doesn't know the nuances of climbing Vinson. It's incredibly important in such a remote, committing place to have the best guides and leadership. And we invest in that with guides like Tomi and other people that we send down there. Yeah, that's just a little bit about our philosophy, but we find that people really appreciate that. If you get 3 or 4 day delay at Vinson Base Camp, to be sitting in the snow and eating freeze dried can just be miserable. Whereas if you're able to get warm, come inside, have some red wine, eat Tomi's asado, have pancakes for breakfast, it just makes it a lot more enjoyable. And that's what we're all about. And that's what you'll see across our programs from Vinson to Everest and beyond, Aconcagua and whatnot. So that's our philosophy, and we spare no expense.
Well, Tomi, I wanted you to give you a moment to chat. You are the trip leader this year. Folks that are here have maybe climbed with you, or they're going to be climbing with you. I know a couple people chimed in that they're signed up for December. So I want to give you a moment just to share any final thoughts on Vinson, on climbing in Antarctica. The floor is yours just to share those thoughts.
Again, to say to people that really is a unique trip. It's a complete different trip comparing other mountain in the same summit or different climbing around the world. Something that I would like to say is that really CTSS was working super hard in the last season to give the opportunity to spend the best experience ever in Antarctica. It's not only about our focus that is, of course, that is in the climbing, and it's in give the best support ever down there and make a safer trip. But for us, the most important also is about the philosophy that Mike was talking about, is to give the opportunity to spend the best time on the ice. No, it's about the climbing stuff, the climbing skills, all the things that we have down there, our own base camp, our own mountain hardware domes in the different camps, and the great experience that you are going to spend there, because mountaineering is not only about climbing and arrive to the top. We need to spend a good time down there, have fun, make new friends on the ice. And at the time that we are going to be there, we are going to be alone. We are going to be in a remote place. We need to have fun with our partners. We need to take care of our partners. Part of that is the food, the time that we have for chill inside the dome, to share experience. So I think that is the most fun part of the trip, to make new friends, to make and share new experience with the other ones, like a team, because really we are alone and we need to take care and to work really hard like a team, because it's the only way to climb Vinson. And then fly down to the ice just with the open mind and ready to spend the best experience ever in the mountain, because it's amazing. It's an amazing place.
Yeah, awesome. Tomi, that's one thing I've just heard you say multiple times today, just how important the team is, your role in the team, everyone's coming together. I can see it also in the way just like the folks that have climbed with you are here, Pascal, Blake saying hi to you. You can tell that the team becomes family. It becomes part of, you spend so much time together and you're in these remote places, you're sharing meals together, you're sharing a celebration together. And it's just a really rich experience beyond just the climbing, which is really neat.
Yeah, and again, I think that this kind of trips is the most important. Of course, that everybody have their own goal to climb the different mountain around, the highest mountain in the world or whatever. But at the end, that part of the trip is the small one, you know. The time that we are going to be on the top is super short. Perhaps there are just 1 minute to take a picture and start going down, or 30 minutes or whatever. But we are going to be spending more time with people in a different place that is not the top. And the best memories ever when we return home is not the top, believe me. It's the time that we spend with the other people. And I think that is the most important. And of course, the top and the summit is really important for everybody, but if we are thinking all the time about the summit, we are losing a lot of things that they are more nice than the top.
Yeah. Tomi, thank you for capturing just truly the essence of what we do here and what is so important to us. Mike, I want to give you a chance to add on any other final thoughts.
Yeah, I'd just say that this is the one trip, if you can do it. I know it's not a cheap trip, but if you can do this trip, definitely do it. It's an incredible experience. Being part of the community in Antarctica, seeing the continent is so special. You know, there are some other climbs that you can give or take, but if you can make this one happen, do it. It's absolutely incredible. There's a reason it's my favorite of the 7, and I keep going back there year after year. Such a special place. So yeah, if you can make it happen, I'd certainly recommend it.
I love it. Perfect. One more time, I am putting in the link to our website so you can go and check out our different climbing options, different add-ons, dates, prices, things like that. All that is in there. But yeah, honestly, folks, Vinson, it's Mike's favorite trip. It's basically in Tomi's backyard. He's the lead guide. You couldn't get any more local than him. It's going to be an epic season this year, as always, and we hope that you consider joining us this year or in the future. Folks, if you have any more questions, feel free to shoot us an email. We're always available. That's it, folks. Enjoy your afternoons, evenings, mornings, wherever you are. Thank you all.
Cool. Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Bye.